Hey everybody, greetings from Vienna, Austria. I'm Stu Hamm and you're watching the Guitar Mania channel.
Welcome to Vienna.
Hey, thank you. It's good to be back.
Great having you.
Thank you.
You played last time in Vienna with Jennifer Batten.
Yes, we played in Vienna, and also I did a bass clinic with I believe Chuck Rainey and Divinity Rocks and Overdubs Bosch at that music store we were talking
at the
about.
Gasometer, yeah.
Yeah.
And you played also with Carl Verheyen here.
Yeah, that's I think when I played at Reagan. Yeah,
we'll be meeting him next week.
Great, it's great. You know, I miss playing with that band, and his drummer John Mader, who actually I got on the gig when I was playing with Carl. It's like my best friend. So Dave Murata is a great bass player. Bettina Schenker, the opener, they're all good friends of mine. So go check them out.
I understand Carl played on your new record.
He did, and that's sort of how that whole record, The Book of Lies, started. Was 2 years ago or three, I guess. I was touring with Carl and a drummer named Jason Harrison Smith, and then we went in the studio as soon as we got off the road and recorded the three of us playing a version of Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds that we'd done.
Which is the last track on your new album.
Yeah. The record's called The Book of Lies. And we'd been playing the song every night, and we went in the studio literally as soon as we got off the road. And we recorded it, and it was great. And then I was going to do a lot of overdubs, but the more overdubs we added to it, like Carl played rhythm guitar and I double bass lines, it sort of took away from the live element of the song, which led me to then sort of approach the other band songs on the record, Back to Shabalala and the Book of Lies, the title track. They're really live sounding, not a whole lot of overdubs.
What's the title about?
The record, The Book of Lies? You know, it's a good question. People ask me that a lot, and what it really is when you're on tour, you're handed an itinerary, right? And it's supposed to tell you everything about your day, like today the drive will be 3 hours, sound check will be at 5, you'll eat at 6, and the hotel is 1 minute from the venue, and it's all lies. So you wake up and you think it's going to be a 2-hour drive, and you realize it's really 6 hours. And
so how was your last ride from yesterday's venue here?
Today was great. Yeah, we were in Frontal, and it was a nice drive. And actually into Frontal, was over the mountains. There was a little bit of snow, beautiful countryside, cows, and beautiful Austria.
Can you tell us a bit about how you went about recording the Book of Lies album?
Well, again, like I said, after my experience with recording LSD, and how sort of adding a lot of my records are very produced, and when we did that song, the more we added to it, it took away from the live vibe. So then the other band songs that I wrote, Back to Shabalala, with Chester Thompson on drums, and then the song itself, The Book of Lies, with John Mader, who's playing with Carl Verheyen. I approached in a really live setting, you know, just sort of got the guys in the studio. When we were fresh, they didn't know the songs that well, and sort of went for a very big vibe. And there's a song called Practicality that is very overproduced. The main part of the record is a 7-piece suite for solo electric bass. Because you see, when I was very young, you know, no one slapped or tapped or played chords or harmonics on the bass when I was 15 or 16 years old. No one did that. I saw Larry Graham pop for the first time, and then I was 16 when I saw Jocko and Stanley Clarke, and I didn't invent tapping, but I was one of the very first people to do it and add sort of this, you know, modern thing. And now, by the time a bass player is 15, he's expected to know how to slap and tap and play harmonics and chords. That way of playing just didn't exist. So the 7-piece suite for solo electric bass is 7, 3-minute pieces, each one using a different technique. One's all chords, one's all slapping, one's all harmonics. So not only is it a way for students to have a solo bass piece to play, but every piece is also a learning tool, an introduction to a different technique, and to teach them strategies to make a bass solo interesting, because for better or worse, there now is a genre of music called solo bass playing.
I mean, you're such a versatile musician, and you know so many different styles so well. Is there a particular area that Stu Hamm thinks, okay, this is still something where it could improve?
Absolutely every part of my playing could improve and is improving. I'm playing upright bass for the first time in many, many years. So I've been working hard on that, and you know, it's the reason I keep doing it. It's because I do feel that I'm finally getting better. After 43 years of playing, it's starting to all come together.
I saw on your Facebook page that your father was a book author, and is that correct?
He was a very well-known musicologist.
And he wrote 2 books on the history of popular music.
He actually sort of started the academic study of popular music. And there's a publication called the Grove Dictionary of Music that he edited. He was the president of the American Musicology Association.
Yeah.
He was very involved with composition. He used to play poker with John Cage. So I grew up with all these avant-garde, John Cage, Nam June Paik, Ben Jonson. My mother was an opera singer, so I grew up with very avant-garde classical music and popular music and the Beatles and jazz. I had an older brother who listened to Mahavishnu and Sun Ra, and so I was exposed to everything.
Basically, you were predestined to become a musician. I mean, or was there a certain point in your life where there was a conscious decision? Now,
I wanted to be a baseball player, and then when I was, I guess, 12 years old, the baseball tryouts for American Legion, I made it through the first 2 days, but the third day of tryouts was the same day as tryouts for the high school jazz band. So at that point, and I wasn't good enough at baseball anyway, so.
I bet you were pretty good for that.
But you know, I mean, I played music my whole life from a very early age, but when I got my first bass in 1973, I did sort of feel that I'd found the instrument that was good at, and most importantly, I got a lot of encouragement from a lot of different sources, people telling me that I was good at it, which really is important for a young person.
Which role did your parents play? I mean, with such a strong musical background in your parents' house, did they push, like not push, but did they tell you like you have to practice your instrument on a regular basis?
I was the third child, so as a parent myself, I know that the first child you're very over nurturing, and by the time they got to me, it was go play in the street with an axe and come home sometime.
So the pressure was off.
The pressure was off, yeah. But I mean, the great thing they did was we traveled a lot. I lived in Italy for a year when I was 8 years old, and you know, was again exposed to classical and pop and jazz and avant-garde jazz, and was in choirs and plays, exposed to just so much different kinds of music, opera.
What importance had musical training for you?
I mean, certainly I had some great teachers. You know, as a teacher myself, you can't teach anyone to do anything. You can make suggestions and point them on the right path. But the good news is you can learn to do anything. The bad news is it takes repetition, patience, and the passage of time.
Are you a musician who has to practice on a regular basis to maintain his level, or is that something that you just grab the instrument whenever you feel like it?
Mentally, I try to live in the moment and try to always play something different, but maybe I'm getting older. Physically, yeah, I have to warm up for 15, 20 minutes until my hands get to the point. I like to be in complete control and have complete control, and that takes more and more time. So for me to be satisfied.
Is there a particular exercise that you do?
I have a whole routine that I go through, yeah.
Okay.
And it's available on my course called Fretboard Fitness by TrueFire. At STUHAMM.com.
Talking a bit about your equipment, we understand you've got a new instrument, a new signature bass.
Yeah, I've been with Warwick for 3.5, 4 years. And on this tour, I'm playing the second version of the prototype that I'm playing. We just, at Warwick Bass Camp that just ended, we finished up some modifications. So next year, the final version will be out. And the year after that, the affordable offshore imported versions coming out. But they're great. I love the Marcus Spangler, who was the main instrument designer there. Is just a genius and a total wood geek, bass geek. We tried some spectacular failures to get this bass. But at least we tried them, and I'm very happy with it. You know, Warwicks are great basses. They're mostly, I think, known for sort of like heavy metal basses, and a lot of them, the necks are really heavy. And one thing that I preach, just because I'm older and I've had some injuries, is sort of ergonomic instruments. So I tried to design a bass that was lighter, more balanced, that might appeal to people that hadn't currently thought of playing a Warwick bass. And I use my Hartke amps that I've been using forever. Solid state. The 5500 has a solid state and tube side, but I've been a solid state guy forever. And I've been using EMG pickups since 1980, and I know Rob Turner really well, and it's just I get to go to the factory and watch him wind pickups for me. And GHS boomer strings and a very expensive Evidence audio cable, no effects whatsoever, straight from my hands into the bass, and the EQ was flat. And so the sound can all come from here and here.
You are today with your own band, the STU HAMM band.
Yeah.
You've got Greg Howe on the guitar. On drums is
Zoltan Churs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but you've played also as a sideman with so many famous musicians, Joe Satriani, Steve Vai. I don't know, too many more than you can point a stick at. What would you say is one of the most important qualities when it comes to being a sideman or a bass player? Is there any particular quality that you think is
Well, yeah, you have to just play what's correct for the gig. I was just in South Africa playing with Denise Williams and Brenda Russell and Bill Champlin, who are just R&B pop singers. I didn't do any tapping or slapping because that's not what the music required.
How do you prepare for such gigs?
Just learn the songs.
By ear?
No, I mean, I have charts. I write out charts for every song, you know, and then I listen to them over and over, and that's one of my talents. But no, I think one of the bad parts about this sort of explosion in bass technique is that some bass players will try to play stuff that is meant to impress people and that doesn't necessarily serve the music. So if you look at people like, I mean, there's so many great bass players that maybe you've never heard of that aren't flashy solo artists. Nathan East, Lee Sklar, Abel Boreal, those guys work all the time because many times as a bass player you just need to show up and play simple and hold it all together. I mean, sitting on the dock of the bay would have sounded awful if he'd slapped it, you know? So I still have, coming from the old school where I love to just play a simple bass line, and then at times I'll do the thing like going out here and with the STU HAMM band so I can explore the other side of my bass playing. But I'm certainly never in a hurry to play something that doesn't suit the music.
Was the bass the instrument that you wanted to play right from the start?
I mean, I played piano and drums and flute and trumpet, and then I saw a guy playing bass at a park by my home, and he had a Fender jazz bass with a matching headstock and a really cool looking amp, and I just thought it was cool, so I wanted to play bass.
Still, one final piece of advice for young aspiring musicians that want to make a living out of being a musician, bass player.
Right. Well, make a living, I'm still trying to figure that one out. But my main piece of advice would be is to get out and play music. Don't just sit in your room and make YouTube videos. I mean, if you want to be a bass player, there's always work. Don't think you're just a heavy metal bass player. Go join a wedding band, join a polka band, join a folk band, go play with some female singers, get a jazz band. Just join 1,000 bands, because then you'll meet other people that are working. You'll meet people that hire musicians. You're just involved in that scene. It doesn't have to be the perfect gig. It doesn't have to be the, you know, some people are lucky and have a rock band with their high school friends and become millionaires like Muse. And there are other people that are working musicians. And there's always people looking for bass players that will show up, know the song, show up on time, and just play the part and be dependable. And there's a lot of work and it's fun. But don't just talk about it. Just go join 1 billion bands and play live.
Thank you so much, Steve. On that note,
Thank you.
all the best for tonight's
All right.
show.
Ciao.